All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Bokeh Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Holritz, and it is good to have you here. And my guest and I worked through some technical difficulties, and we made it work. We made it happen. My new friend, Demetrius Neal, is here with me. Thanks so much, Demetrius, for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, thank you for having me on this podcast, man.
Oh, it's absolutely a privilege, and we're going to get into a really interesting topic. I'm excited about this, actually, for multiple reasons. We're going to be talking about the coexistence of faith and what may seem like, in some cases, a contradiction. I don't think it is, but dedication, faith and dedication as it relates to building a business, really fascinating. And we're going to get to the details of that here in just a second. But one of the things that I like to do, Demetrius, before we get into the main topic at each episode is to kind of introduce our guest a little bit with some kind of rapid fire questions, if you will. And
Cool.
I think the best way to introduce your brand today would be with this first question about brand position. We talk about the unique value proposition that a business, a photographer's business, your business brings to your marketplace. What is your brand position?
Man. I think my brand position would be just to always deliver, good quality, clean product shots to my clients. I really base my business on delivering exactly what I say I'm gonna do for my clients. So
Okay.
it's always, giving them exactly what I say, stands true to my words, just really nailing down, who I am in my work and giving it to them always. So it's always just staying true to who I am and delivering exactly, what I told them I would deliver.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up. I think it's a really powerful concept, and maybe not even emphasized enough in our industry. The significance of saying something and then actually following through on it. I don't know
Exactly.
about you, but even down to if somebody says to me, "Hey, let's meet at such and such a time," or "Let's plan on this particular thing on this particular day at this time." When somebody tells me that, I expect them to follow through in that. That could be professionally or personally or otherwise. And
Agreed.
and I'm not sure that we always put enough emphasis on that same concept as it relates to our brand as photographers. When we say we're going to do a particular thing, it's important that not only do we deliver on it, ideally we even take it above and beyond, right? But we
No, most
actually follow
definitely.
through. Yeah, that's really interesting.
No,
What made that important for you? Did you have a personal experience working with other companies, and you're like, you know what, I don't want to get that experience. This is what I'm going to do.
not necessarily. It's a more of a store moral standpoint.
Okay.
So trust is real big to me.
Okay.
In this industry, clients trust you. They give you, a certain amount of money to deliver images to them so they can promote, to grow their business. So here is that these companies are trusting you to do exactly what you said you was gonna do.
Yeah.
So, and trust is real big in any relationship that you have. I
So
mean, whether
true.
it's personal or business,
Yep.
trust is the key factor. If the moment you break their trust, it's hard to rebuild their relationship. It's hard to get them to trust you again. There's always these doubts and these questions of, okay, can he really do this? Can he
Yeah.
really, come through? Because last time he said it, it didn't work out so well.
Yes.
So I think, it's the moral standpoint of the trust. I want my clients to always trust me when they say, hey, I got a product. I need you to shoot this. I need you to make this, look good. I need them to trust that I'm going to deliver exactly, what they ask me to deliver, and I'm going to make sure I deliver
I love it.
just to keep that relationship good, strong, clean. Therefore, when they know they call Demetrius, we know exactly what we're gonna get from him. We know exactly what's gonna happen,
Yeah.
and it makes it easy for me, makes it easy for my clients and everything. So,
Yep.
trust is such a big thing in business.
It is a really big thing. And it's interesting you point out the significance of trust, not just in personal or business relationships, but of course, personal relationships as well. I think about, so Jill, who produces our podcast, also happens to be my girlfriend. And one of
Uh,
the experiences that I had when we started dating that was kind of a new experience for me in personal relationships, and certainly stood in contrast to my tendency emotionally to kind of be up and down. I'm a pretty emotional guy. Was
yeah,
her, it was, yeah, right. I know you can't imagine
I
that.
can't imagine it.
But in all seriousness, it was her consistency in the way that she showed up. She wasn't unpredictable, or I should say the other way around. She was predictable. I knew what I was getting when
Yeah,
spent time with her, and I wasn't used to that. I had been in personal relationships that the person on the other side was up one day and down the next, and up 1 minute and down the next, and you just kind of didn't know what you were going to get. And just the simple notion, all her other personality traits, good personality traits aside, just the simple notion that I knew what I was getting, that it was just easy to interact with this person because I knew what I was getting. It was such a relief, and it was kind of a new concept to me, frankly. But in all seriousness, I'm really glad that you bring this up, because I know what this feels like firsthand. But it's that very thing that we need to be delivering to our clients, and I love that that's important to you.
But it works. I mean, it even works all around the board, even with your team. I mean, the people that you hire, assistant, digital tech, stylist, producer, you have to trust them too. There's a trust with them to know that they're going to show up at their best at all times.
Yeah.
And they're going to give you 110%, and you're going to give them 110%. And therefore the team can get the client 150%, to nail the job. So, just trusting each other and having that trust amongst each other is crucial. It's so big, man. It's probably the most important thing to have. Building a team, building a business, is being able to be a man of your word, a woman of your word. And when you say you're going to deliver something, you deliver it. You over exceed and you deliver.
I love it. I love it. Okay. For everybody listening in, but I have to throw this out. This is not even a side note. This is really important to know. I want everybody to see Demetrius's website too. And I'm popping this up on screen on the video. By the way, for everybody listening to the audio version of this, we are live streaming currently, facebook.com/Bokeh Podcast, and then youtube.com/PhotogsEdit, the Photographers Edit YouTube channel. But I'm popping this up on screen. DL Neal, NEAL.com is the website URL. And then also Deal Neal, DEELNEAL on Instagram. And Demetrius, I'm going to actually jump over here to your website too. Your work, commercial work, and we don't get the opportunity to have a lot of commercial photographers on the show. It's just stunning stuff, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Oh, absolutely. How long have you been doing this?
Man. So, photography itself, 5 years, commercial, 2 years. So the first couple of years of doing photography, I kind of just picked up the camera, understanding photography. And I'm kind of glad you mentioned that, man, because I think a lot of times people, they associate that when you pick up the camera, you instantly just start making money. And I didn't take that route. My route was a little untraditional. I got a mentor, and he mentored me for a year and a half. And in that period of being mentored, I got paid for nothing. I didn't get paid for anything. I literally was there to obtain the knowledge, understand photography, understand the components of a camera, learn, the rules of thirds and all the rules. And then once I did that, then I was able to branch off and practice even more, and then eventually start charging, for the work that I do. Sure. So at first I started doing off, family portraits, weddings, models. And I enjoyed it, because I like people. I'm a people person, so I like interacting with people. But I'm a sneakerhead. I love sneakers, man. And
awesome.
One day I was at home and I was just thinking, like, who shot that image? Like, who does these Nike shoes and these Reeboks and Adidas? And I was just intrigued. And from there, I started doing my research. And then I realized that, they're photographers. They just call commercial photographers. And I was like, oh, man, like, I think I found it. Like, this is it.
Okay.
And then I did the same thing again. I found another mentor. Didn't get paid for another year. Just really understand commercial lighting, the equipment, just understanding the commercial world, because it's a lot different just operating by yourself and doing family pictures and weddings and things like that. It's a little different. So I just really took the time out to learn. And man, now I'm here, like shooting products and, having fun doing what I'm doing and actually really enjoying it. And,
well, truly, it's stunning stuff. And while we're talking about it too, I got to pull up your Instagram account. I'm very much a minimalist, and so I love just the way that you're laying out the images, even on your Instagram account. It's just beautifully done.
Yeah.
But I'm so amazed at the quality of this work for only having been in the industry for just a few years. I mean, that speaks highly of your commitment and your understanding of the craft as well.
Yeah. So again, that's one of the things I always tell people about. I mean, and it's anything that you do. In order for you to get the best results in anything you do, you got to dedicate yourself to it.
True.
I tell people, I feel like there's 3 things in life that you can't run from. That's just in life or even starting a business if you want to be the best. dedication,
Hmm.
hard work, and sacrifice. You can't get away from them.
Hmm.
Those are the three principles of anything that you want to become great. If you try to cheat one of those, you will fail. You will fail because you can't cheat them. I think these are the basic like fundamentals of just becoming great.
Hmm.
I mean, we can even look at some of the greats in sports, painters, architects, anything that, someone is great in. They put the time, they put the effort, they sacrifice. I mean, we could say, we could even use Michael Jordan for instance. I mean, he was practicing when everybody else was asleep. And I even go a step further. I wouldn't even use Michael Jordan. I'll
Hmm.
use, Kobe Bryant. I
Hmm.
mean, people will talk about how much dedication Kobe Bryant
Yeah.
put into basketball. When everybody was at home,
Sure.
sleep, he was in the gym shooting. When his friends was at the club and hanging out and having fun, he was at the gym shooting.
Yep.
He was shooting 1,000 free throws a day before he left the gym.
Hmm.
And that's why he's considered one of the legends because he put the work, he put the dedication and the sacrifice.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure his wife and his kids wanted him at home, but he knew he had a job to do.
Hmm.
He knew he had a dream that he was trying to accomplish, and the only way he can get to it is if he outworked everybody else. And literally, my friend Nathan, that's what I did. I outworked everybody.
Wow.
I sacrificed everything and put myself in the studio 24/7. And I will shoot. I will shoot. I will shoot. I will shoot. And people were like, "Man, did you get burnt out by doing this?" And I said, "I can never get burnt out about something I love because I
Hmm.
love it too much. So even when I fail at it, I'm right back at it. Even when I want to give up, it won't let me give up because I love it so much. I kind of say like me and product photography has a love-hate relationship because when I hate it, I want to walk away from it, but the
Yeah.
next day I forgive it and I come right back to it.
Yeah.
It's like it's so crazy, man,
Yeah.
like how it works. But those 2 years, man, I literally dedicated myself
Hmm.
to product photography, and I learned, I shot, I spent money, I rented equipment, I paid retouches, I did it all, man, out of my pocket. I'm spending money out of my pocket to obtain this goal
Yeah.
that I know I want to reach,
Yep.
and I feel like that's why my success and the work that you see is so strong, because it's just a result of my dedication to the game,
Hmm.
to photography and learning,
Mm-hmm.
product photography, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a lot of respect for that, and honestly, this idea of work ethic, I've been so obsessed for so long, and our listeners know we talk a lot about time management on the Bokeh Podcast. How do we get the most out of the time that we spend in a work day? Because I think
Yep.
on the flip side of this conversation are people that they may be busy 60 hours a week, but I don't know that the work that they're supposedly doing that they're busy with, quote unquote, for 60, 80 hours a week is work that's actually translating to anything. They're kind of
Agreed.
halfway editing some images while also having Netflix running or scrolling through Facebook while, they could be doing something else and they're not spending their time wisely. So for so long, I've been so obsessed with this notion of how much can I leverage the work that I'm doing to maximize the return in a relatively short amount of time? And that's something that's still really important to me. But in the last year or two in particular, the significance of work ethic has really kind of been front and center for me for multiple reasons. And
Yep.
then also consistency in that, right? Because it's easy to show up for a little bit, but then kind of back off again. To show up
Yep.
consistently over and over and over again, that
Yep.
becomes a challenge. And you said that you love what you do, but I also get the sense that you have a baseline set of values that are driving that work ethic. Am I wrong?
Most definitely.
Okay.
I mean, um, my friends and my family will tell you, man, like, loyalty and trust is everything for me. Like, I'm loyal to product photography. Like, it's
Mm,
it's something that I didn't. I mean, honest with you, I never thought this would be my life. I'm just being honest with you.
sure.
I didn't know that this is what I would be dedicating my time to 20,
Mm,
24/7 almost.
mm,
So the loyalty I have for product photography, even just the love for product photography, because I love hard, man. Like when I love you, I love you.
yeah.
Through thick and thin, through ups and downs, I
Yeah.
love you. So
Yeah.
me loving product photography is it's the same way.
Mm,
Yeah, I might have bad days in it, but I also had a lot of good days
sure.
as well. And I remind myself of it. Like every day is not going to be a good shoot day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I test shoot and I think I like something. I'll be like, nah, I don't like this image. I don't feel it. But I don't give up on it once I don't feel it. I just come back the next day and I'll let that project go and I'll move on because the next project might be the project I blow my top off. I'd be like, oh my God, this is everything. Like, how did I create this? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So that's one thing I learned about this is I don't give up on it. And in return, since I didn't give up on it, it's not giving up on me, and it's repaying itself back to me, tenfold. So, my baseline of my life is very loyal. I'm very
Mm,
trustworthy.
mm,
I give my friends, the shirt off my back if I have to,
mm.
and I'm willing to sacrifice that. I'm willing to sacrifice that to get to that next level. So, yeah, I'm 35, man, and I'm in my prime of my life. And some of my friends, they go out, they have fun, they kick it, and that's fine. Like I don't
Sure.
judge nobody,
Sure.
but my dreams, like my goal set and where I'm at in my life, I can't have that distraction. So I have to stay focused at all times, and this is where my focus has got me this far.
I love it. Well, I have to give a shout out to a mutual friend of ours, George Mitchell, who actually
Oh
he
yeah.
introduced me to you. And I said we don't have a lot of commercial photographers on here, but George has been on a couple of times. And you guys both seem to have you mentioned your love for people. George,
Yep.
definitely, I get that vibe as well. And then the commitment to the craft. I mean, George has that all the way. So I have
Most
to give him
definitely,
a shout
man.
out for sure. And for anybody who's
Hey, yeah,
listening
man,
in,
that's my friend, man. That's my
ah,
guy right there, man.
amazing, amazing. We've had great conversation in person and here on the podcast as well, and
So
I'm
dope,
looking
man.
forward to the
So
same in the
dope.
future between us as well.
Most
Real
definitely, man.
good stuff. But let me keep going because we've got a lot to talk about. You
Let's
mentioned
go.
the significance of this loyalty and trust as it relates to the way that you're running your business. And the next question that I wanted to ask you was about customer experience. Would you say that trust factor is that key idea behind a good customer experience, or would you add to that?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I
Okay.
can use an example for a client. I shot some shoes for a client, and the relationship between me and the creative director is so good that when they give me the shoes, they say, "Hey, Demetrius, just do you. We don't need to give you a brief.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
we trust you enough. We like to work that much
Wow.
that we trust that you're going to deliver all the time." But I had to build that relationship though with
Mm,
them. I had to consistently deliver, overachieve, over deliver for them to be like, hey, when we give him shoes, don't worry about it. When he give it back to us about 2-3 weeks, and it'd be exactly what we thought it was gonna
wow.
be,
Wow.
and that's it. So the way to get to that point though
Mm,
is that you have to study the craft and really dig your nails into it to truly understand product photography and how to light and how light moves and what modifiers to use and what lens to use for this. Would this be good with a 100 macro? Maybe I should try this with an 85. Who knows? Maybe I should experiment a little bit and throw the 50 on there and see what I get off of it.
sure.
So you just really got to keep yourself in the lab, man, in the studio, and just practice. Practice make perfect. If you're not practicing, you be perfect.
Mm,
You know, and it's not necessarily to be perfect, but it's just to understand and know what you're doing when these clients come to you because they're trusting you. Some clients are trusting you with astronomical numbers and money.
yeah. Yeah.
So you have to deliver. And the only way, and it's even like a motivation for yourself though. In order for you to be able to accept that contract, you got to be confident enough to know that you know what you're doing.
Mm,
But the only way you know that is you consistently work. You work, you work, you work, you work. So again, man, I have sacrificed. I've dedicated myself to product photography, and my friends and family could contest to it. You know, I meet you, what you doing? They know that everybody, my mom and them, my family and my friends call me meet you. They'll
yeah.
call my phone like, what are you doing? I'm in the studio shooting.
Wow.
I'm shooting this, I'm shooting that.
Mm,
Even ask George. I can call George on a random day. He's like, man, what you doing? Man, I'm shooting. I got a question though, George. What you think about this? And he's
yeah.
like, dude, like you're always like working. I'm like, I have to, man, because
Mm,
I want to be the best.
mm,
Like I want to be the best, man. Like I didn't jump in product photography, to be okay. I
yep.
want to be great. Like I
Yep.
want to be great at this. Like I
Mm,
want somebody to be like, oh, that Demetrius Neal guy, yeah, he's good. Like
yeah.
he's up there. He's
Yeah.
top 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I'm striving for. So, the customer experience, man, is all about, like I say, it's all about the trust. They trust me enough to give me a product and know that I'm going to deliver it. So they have no worries, man. And I have no worries because I trust in myself because I know I can deliver it.
Because you
So
put the time and the work in too. I think
I
there's
put the
something
time and the
interesting
work
about
in.
that. Yeah, that you put the work and the time in to that craft ahead of time. That gives you a bit of kind of freedom, if you will, in the moment, interacting with a client, focusing on the relationship and delivering when you're there for that shoot, because
Most definitely.
you're not having to second guess your technical abilities. You put the time in for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the cool thing about that is once you put enough time in for the technical part, then you can start breaking the rules a little bit.
There you go.
And that's how you find your style. That's how you figure out who you are.
Okay.
So for the longest, I had some of my mentors, and I got a couple of mentors that I always talk to, man. George. Me and George talk all the time.
Yeah.
Brian Cummings,
Okay.
uh, David Butler out of Boston,
Okay.
Osborne Marcherio out of Vancouver, Tony Roslin out of Seattle.
All
Like
right.
I talk to these guys on Instagram all the time,
Sounds
asking
like we got a
questions,
list
getting
of
feedback.
podcast guests coming up too.
Man, like these guys are great, man. And
Okay.
I look up to these guys, and I text them, I talk to them,
Mm.
asking questions because I consider them to be, great. So I want to get to their level, and the only way you can get to that level, you gotta ask questions, and they gotta feel that you're dedicated to the craft.
Yeah.
And when they feel that, they give you all the answers, man.
Mm.
Like because I think the biggest thing is that sometimes in photography, we kind of look at each other as competition sometimes. And it's really not competition. It's just that other photographers want to know that you love this craft as much as they love it. And once they feel that, they have no problems opening up their doors and saying, hey, let me help you on this, or let me show you this, or maybe try this or try that.
Yeah.
It's when that, they feel like you don't love it. It's kind of like, well, why am I really showing you this? Because you really don't care about it like I do,
Yeah. There have been
but I
times.
care about this.
There have been times over the years when I've had the opportunity to help other photographers, give them advice, make suggestions, and when they say yes, okay, thanks, and then going about their business and don't take that information and do a whole lot with it, and that happens over and over and over again, it becomes a little bit tiresome. You want
Yep.
to. I want to help people like crazy. I wouldn't be doing this
Yep.
podcast if that wasn't the case, but at the end of the day, if they're not willing to take that information and go do something with it, you're like, why am I putting all this time and effort and energy into it? So
Exactly.
I hear what you're saying about that. Let me kind of shift directions just a little bit, though. We were talking about time, and I have so much respect for your dedication and the time that you're putting in. Is there some way that you're able to shut off, to take a little bit of time off here and there so that you don't get burnt out, so you get the rest that you need, so you can bring the best to your business? Or are you at a stage in your life right now where you're just like, we're putting balance aside, we're just all in 110%?
So I think it's a natural balance. Um, of course, got time for my family. My family is everything to me. I make sure that I spend time with my family,
Hmm.
uh, and that's super important. As much as I work, I always got time for my family. I spend time with my daughters and everything. So like
And is that just
it's
as
super
simple as
important.
saying, like, you know what, I'm putting my phone down, I'm putting my computer aside? You seem like a pretty
Yep,
practical guy, so I could see it just being as
yep, that's
simple as
it.
that. Okay.
Super simple,
Okay.
real simple. I might want to shoot, and it's like I tell myself, like, hey, go hang out with the family, or let's go hang out and go do something fun with my daughters, or whatever the case may be. So
Sure.
uh, there is a level of me understanding that I can't just be always into the work because I do have other people that depend on me outside of photography,
Yep.
emotionally, and I have to be there for them as well, and that's part of that loyalty as well. So
Yeah.
I have my breaks. I take vacations. Sometimes vacations are kind of hard to take because
Yeah.
my mind's always thinking about photography.
Sure.
I see a product and I'm like, ooh, I want to shoot that. Like, I got these concepts going in my head.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, just chill out for a minute. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna calm down, but don't think I ain't got my phone. I'm taking notes. Like, all right, I want to find this product. So,
Sure.
but I do take breaks though. I definitely have my breaks.
Cool. Talk to me about the concept of delegation. You're relatively new. I mean, we'll call it 5 years into photography and then
Mm-hmm.
running a business. Is delegation or outsourcing something that you've experimented with, whether it's editing or administrative tasks or any of the sort?
Most definitely. I won't say it was a mistake, but when I first started, I tried to do everything. Like I was trying to retouch myself. I was trying to, produce myself, trying
Yeah.
to assist myself, like all these things. What I find out is that the more things I have on my plate, it takes away from me creatively thinking. And people pay me to creatively think.
Yeah.
They don't pay me to assist. They don't pay me to produce.
Mm.
They don't pay me to retouch.
Mm-hmm.
They pay me to creatively think.
Mm-hmm.
So once I start understanding it, I definitely found me a retoucher. And I also, I make sure that I send him the images. He understands what I need to be retouched,
Yep.
and that he gets a retouch. And the reason I do that because again, it frees up that time for me to creatively think,
Yep.
to really plan out these shots
Yep.
and really put the time into those shots to say, okay, I thought about this thoroughly. Send the mood board over to the client. They see that I thought about it thoroughly, and then we put it into production. So I think it's super important to start delegating. I mean, now don't get me wrong. I think it's great to learn retouching so you can understand it, so you can better tell your
Yes.
retoucher what you're looking for.
100%. Yeah.
But over time, I think that it's best to find someone that you can delegate that task to. You find an assistant that knows how to set up your sets and know what you're looking for, know where your stuff is. You find a digital tech that understands how you shoot and how you label things because it just makes that set and that time of shooting so much easier and it flows. It's a consistent flow because everybody's on the same page.
Yep.
So you come in and do a shoot, it's like a regular day, but you're actually working because the crew is so thick, it's so tight that everybody understands what's going on. It operates seamlessly, man. So I'm all for delegation.
I love it. Yeah. And I also love the fact that you highlight it's not about you're delegating for the sake of then not going and doing anything yourself. You're just handing the work off. You're delegating so that you can focus on the things that you're best at so that you can bring your A game in the area that you're focusing. And I think that's a wonderful balance. One last question before we get to the main topic here. And by the way, for everybody that's watching this live, don't hesitate to say hello, comment, ask questions, send us funny emoji, whatever you want to do. But engage, have a conversation with us. Would love your engagement. And for those of you that are listening to the audio version after the fact, follow us at Instagram.com/Bokeh Podcast. And you can keep up to date with any of the upcoming live streams. We're going to usually push out a couple of live streams a week. And then, of course, we'll push those to audio after the fact. But we do keep those videos on the Facebook page at Bokeh Podcast as well as Photog's Edit on YouTube. Last question, though, before we get to the main topic here, Demetrius, and that is about inspiration or education, maybe a favorite book or podcast that you've taken in the last couple of years that you would recommend to our listeners.
Man, I think the biggest inspiration, two things, man. This might sound crazy when I say this, but the people who have doubted me, that's huge, man. I think we all have like we go through things in life and we have our trials and tribulations and ups and downs. And there was a point before I found photography that it wasn't a dark spot, but I had went through some things and there was a lot of people who doubted me, who wrote me off and was like, oh no, he's done.
Okay.
And that was a little bit of a motivation for me because don't count me out. Yeah. I'm too strong for that. I've been through too much to be counted out of anything in this life. And I think another motivation would be God, man. Like I thank God for this talent because I didn't know I had it. And he decided that it was time for you to discover it. And now it has taken me and have me interact with people like you and other people that I never thought would even be a possibility. So, I always thank God, and God is one of my biggest motivations as well. The last one will probably be just showing my kids and my family that anything is possible, man. We live in a world where everybody is always doubting everybody or trying to tell people they can't do something or people put their fears on you and then you start having self-doubt and you start, not thinking that you can do things. And I didn't want that. I want to cultivate a space for people that's in my life to know that anything is possible. Like anything is possible. Again, it goes back to those principles though. Yeah. What are you willing to sacrifice? How much time are you willing to dedicate?
Yes.
And how committed are you to this dream that you have that everybody's telling you that it can't happen, but you know that it can because you believe in yourself and you know that you can do it. So those three things always keep popping up, man. So It's just that motivation and drive to show people that anything is possible. Like you can do anything you put your mind to.
But to bring it back around though to your work ethic, and especially as it relates to your kids are looking at social media and they see kind of the highlight reels of these various personalities, influencers, YouTubers, etc. And it looks easy to get there. They don't see all the work, right, behind the scenes that goes into that stuff.
Yes.
And so this is to ultimately compliment you. I love that you're not only trying to demonstrate to your kids that anything is possible, but they're also simultaneously seeing your work ethic and realizing, okay, Dad says he can do this thing, but he's also putting the work in to get there. And that's how I'm going to be able to get there as well. I like that you're demonstrating that work ethic. And again, I take inspiration from that because as much as I've been obsessed with time management over the years, and my editing company is based around that we talk a lot about it on the podcast. At the end of the day, to your original point, at the very beginning of our conversation, stuff isn't going to get done if you don't put the work in, and we're certainly not going to be at the top of the game if we don't put the work in. You got to put the work in, and you got to be consistent in showing up. So I take inspiration from that. Thanks for sharing
most
that.
definitely, man. And like I just try to get that knowledge to people, man. Like that's one thing I don't hold back is that information to them, to people, man. Like you gotta dedicate yourself to this, man, or whatever you love. I don't care if it's catching fish, man. You want to be the best fisherman, then you got to put that time in, man. You got to learn new techniques and learn the fish and learn the ropes and what's best and what's not best and what pole to use. Like you got to put that time in. You got to go out there and test it. Yeah. You got to go on the river and fish and see what works and what don't work. I mean, just like photographers, we got to go in the studio and set up. And if it works, it didn't work. If it do work, write it down. It worked. We know this works. So you just can't avoid it. You can't get away from it, man. And, that's just what I just try to tell people, man. Like people ask me all the time, like, how do you do it? I said, man, I just decided not to stop. I decided not to quit. So I never quit. Like, and I tell people, man, I don't have a plan B. There is no plan B for Demetrius Neal. It's not. Like, there's not, man. I don't have a backup job waiting. Like when I decided to do photography full time, I told myself there is no plan B. I have no backup because I think that when people have backups, it's always this, you don't go as hard as you need to for plan A when you have plan B kind of like in the backfield, So if you get rid of plan B, you have no choice but to go hard for plan A. You have no choice. Like you have to work hard. You have to give it everything because as long as you have a backup, you can kind of stick your foot in and stick your foot out. You're not fully in it. You're never fully in it because one foot's in plan B and the other one's in plan A. So how can any one of these plans come together if you're not fully into one of them? You know what I'm saying? So I told myself like, hey, once I dove into photography, there is no plan A. I have to dedicate everything, sacrifice everything and to photography to achieve plan A. And it's been working so far, man. Like it's been panning out.
Well, again, I have a lot of respect for that, the work ethic that drives that. The other thing, and the last point here before we get to this conversation, because we have so much to talk about still, but I just love this. This is really, really good stuff. Something that you highlighted there that I want to kind of reiterate for our listeners is the significance, not just simply of putting the hard work in, but also making adjustments as we go. You talked about you go in the studio, you shoot, you see something doesn't work, you make an adjustment and you try it, and go back and try it the next day, or go back and try something different the next day. And I think that's really important to note as well, because it's easy, again, in this day and age, the way that I think a lot of people perceive success, it's just kind of this fast track, a one-way fast track. And the reality is behind that success is a lot of adjustment and change. And we have to be okay with the fact that something is not going to work in the moment. We change, we make an adjustment, we shift a little bit, and then we keep going. And we have to be willing to continue to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be easy to get beat down.
One of my greatest achievements is failure, man. One of my greatest achievements is failure. Because when you fail, you learn. If you did everything correct, what would you learn? How would you know how to deal with losing? If you just won all your life and the first time you lose, it's devastating. It's hard to bounce back from that, man. But if you failed before, when you fail again, it's nothing. You can dust your shoulders off and go right back into it. So failure is one of my biggest achievements, and I have failed a lot in photography. Every product shot I've done has not been the best. It has not been top class, man. But I have failed. And I tell people all the time, I have failed at this. Like I'm not, I didn't just pick up the camera and every time I snapped a picture, it was the best thing ever happened. Nah, man, I had some epic fails in shooting products. Uh, but that failure has taught me to not give up, to keep going, to sit down, figure out what went wrong, and try it again, and keep trying, man. Because again, a lot of things you don't get on the first try, man. You keep trying. Eventually you'll get it. It'll work out,
Yep.
But the I think the hard part of it is to keep trying.
Mm,
Is to not be down on yourself and get down on yourself so you can't, try again. I
mhm.
remember like a couple of years ago, I had posted my bank account one day on Facebook, and it was like negative $500.
Mm.
And I was like, "This how you run the business. This how you run the business." Because there's gonna be days where you're in the negative,
Mm.
but you got to keep going. You got to keep going, man. Like, and people was like, "Man, that's crazy." I was like, "Yeah," but I didn't, But the next day, I made $5,000.
Sure.
So yeah, I was in negative one day, and you might beat down on yourself because you're in the dark,
Sure.
but you don't know that next day might put you in the light, and that 5,000 brought me right back to the positive. So that's why I keep telling people, don't give up, man. Don't give up. Even in the darkest days,
Mm.
find the light because it's there. You just gotta look for it.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. You're giving us all these just pearls of wisdom and quotable lines and everything. I mean, it's good stuff. Jill, who produces our podcast, she's taking notes madly right now and clipping audio clips for Instagram and stuff. But in all seriousness, it's the funny thing about cliches, actually, my friend Sean Austin, who I've had on the podcast a number of times, he talks about the funny things about cliches is that they're true, there's a lot of truth to them, right?
Always.
And these things that you're talking about, in some cases, may seem or sound to some that are listening and are watching like cliches. The reality is, if we just do them, we'll see that there's success on the other side of that. But we have to be willing not only to do them, number one, but to your point again, Demetrius, to be willing to take or to accept a bit of failure here and there and let that kind of bounce off of us and keep going. On the other side of that, and the consistency in that is the success. So I take that very personally. I'm working at applying that to my life, and I hope our listeners do as well. But
All good, man.
I want to keep going because we've got so much to cover here. And so I mentioned at the very beginning of the conversation that we're going to talk about this concept of the coexistence of faith and dedication. And I think this is a really interesting one for a number of reasons. One, I like to kind of hit both sides of a conversation, right? Kind of look at both sides of the coin, if you will. I also know that our industry has a very large community, a faith-driven community, the photography industry does. So it's a very relevant conversation. And I have a very close personal experience. I've mentioned a number of times here on the podcast that I grew up in Japan. I spent about 10 years of my life there. I was there because my parents were missionaries. We spent about 10 years there, and my parents were doing missionary work there. So I know firsthand the significance of faith in day-to-day life. And so I can relate to the concept, but I also know that faith is subjective. So my experience of faith, or our listeners' experience of faith, is going to differ, likely from person to person. I wonder, just to kind of set the stage and give context to the conversation, you can just share briefly your personal experience of faith. What did it take to get to your current belief system?
I would say, man, my family has always been in the church. My dad's mom, my mom's mom, heavy believers. Uh, and I think, as being a kid, I used to always go to church with my dad's mom all the time. Like every time I spent the night over there, we would go to church on Sunday.
Sure.
As a little kid, you don't really understand God and faith because you're just a kid, man. You just know you get up and you're going to church.
Yeah.
I think as you get older in life and certain situations start to happen, you start to see that kind of come into play in your faith be tested. And I think the one thing is that what keeps my faith strong is because I believe that God didn't give me the talent for no reason.
Hmm.
He didn't. He gives everybody a talent. It's all about pausing and listening to him and understanding what he's trying to guide you to and lead you to. And if you can hear it on the other side of that fence, it's glory. It's glorious, man. So, I mean, I can contest to that, man. I didn't think that, again, photography would lead me to these situations and
Sure.
positions in my life.
Yeah.
And because I didn't give up because he believed in me and I believed in him. And I didn't give up on myself because he believed in me. My faith carried me through these dark days, through these tough times, man, through these hardships that I had in my life. And now I'm here. And I can look back on those hard days and be like, I never thought I was going to make it through that, but I did. I made it through it.
Sure.
And so, if I can make it through hardships in life, messing up on a test shoot ain't nothing. It didn't work today. We'll come back tomorrow because
Yeah.
that's been my life. That's been the life God has set up for me. You had a hardship. I got you through that. So keep believing in me. Another one's going to come. I got you through that. God never said that life would be easy. He said, I'll always be with you through life. I will always be there to protect you. Protect you. Not saying that you won't go. He's not saying that you're not going to go through hard things. You're
Sure.
going to go through hard things. We all do. Death is a hard thing. I lost two of my best friends in 3 years.
Wow.
And my faith was being tested. Like, because one thing I always tell people, I never question God. I never question him. As much as I hurt, I miss my friends, man. I miss both of them. As much as I hurt, I never question why he decided to do that. Because I have enough faith in him and believe in him that much that I would never question him. I have to accept what it is and just do the best that I can.
Would you say that the strength of that faith, the consistency of that faith, does that largely come from the way that you were raised, or did you have an experience at some point in your life that really solidified that?
I think it's both, man. I think having a praying family is always important. Somebody that can, people that pray for you, that want to see you do good in life, that's super important. And I've been, grateful to have a bunch of people who care about me. Even through my hardships, I've had people, consistently pray for me, be by my side, and want the best for me. And yeah, I think all my hardships was a test of faith. I think any hardship any of us go through is a test of faith, man. You can say you believe in something until it's time to believe in it.
Yeah.
That's the test.
Yep.
That's the test.
Yep.
I can tell you, I can run 100 miles until it's time to run 100 miles. That's the test.
Sure.
That's it. Because if you can't run 100 miles, then it was so, excuse my language, it was bullshit. You know what I'm saying? It was bull.
Yeah.
So I think the hardships that you go through in life are those tests of faith. And as long as you stay true to that faith, on the other end, because honestly, we always look back on hardships and be like, okay, I made it through that. And it always seems so easy on the other side of it.
On the other side.
When you're going through it, it's hard. It's like, it's gut wrenching sometimes. But once you make it through it, you can look back and be like, damn, I remember that pain I felt from going through that hardship, but I made it through. So once you experience those and you understand that pain and seeing the light, when I'm faced with a hardship, I don't get mad no more. Like, no one can make me mad no more in life. Why am I mad for? My life is great. I have a great life. My family's good. I'm good. I'm doing what I love. There ain't nothing you can say about me. There ain't nothing you could do to me that'll make me upset. I'm not gonna give you that type of power over my life because my faith is so strong. My faith is so strong. Whatever's brung to me, I will figure it out and get past it. And I think another, and as we talking, man, I think the biggest component to that is my father, man. My dad was super hard on me. And as a young kid, I could never understand why. Like it used to baffle me, man. I remember in high school, like all my friends' parents are buying them cars and all this stuff. And I'm like, where my car at, Pops? Like, you gonna buy me a car? And he was like, nah, son, you gotta work for that. You gotta go get that. I can't get that for you. You have to go get that. And I remember being so angry at him because, like, dude, like, what more do you want me to do as a kid?
Yeah.
But even to this day, man, like when I see my dad and I make these accomplishments, man, he's like the only person that makes me cry because I understand now, like these hard rules and that tough love that he gave me. Because if he literally just gave me everything I wanted in my life, if photography never would have worked, I would have gave up on it. I would have been like, this ain't it. I'm done. Right. Whatever. Right. I would have moved on to something else. But the fact that tough love taught me just to, you know what, you good. Keep going. It's okay. Work for it. Work hard for it. Dedicate yourself to it if you want it. Because anything, I could pretty sure like when you was a kid, it might a toy that you might have wanted or action figure, and your mom and dad was like, "No, we're not gonna buy it, but you can do chores. You can
100%.
take out you can cut the grass, you
Yep.
can take out the trash and clean the kitchen and do these
Yep.
things, or you can go get a lawnmower and cut the neighbor's yard for $20 or $10, and you gotta earn your keep."
Yep.
The same thing, man. I dedicated myself enough to this game to earn my keep in photography and product photography. So
I had to, believe it
same
or not,
concept.
Demetrius, I had to pay. My dad was charging me rent to live at home when I was in college. I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from.
Hey, man, you got to earn your keep, man.
Yeah, yeah,
You got to
yeah.
earn your keep out here. And like now as an adult, as a grown man, I understand it so much. Like it makes so much sense.
Sure.
Like it just all clicked, and I was like, "Well, thanks, Dad. I appreciate that." Because it worked.
Well, so I see where that work ethic comes from too. That's pretty fascinating. I love to hear the backstory. You could see how the psychology was developed over time through this experience, and in this case with your dad. Talk to me, if you were to sum up, let's just say in one sentence, if you were to sum up the significance of faith specifically as it relates to your business, what would that summary be? What would that summation be?
That's a good question, man. I would say
It doesn't have to just be one sentence if you don't want it to.
no, it's cool. I'm trying to formulate in my mind the one thing. Oh, you know what? I always live by this rule.
Okay.
Everything is achievable.
Hmm.
Everything is achievable. Everything. Everything. I always tell myself that every time. Everything is achievable. Everything. You can achieve anything that you want to. Again, it just depends on how hard you work
So
and the
I'm
dedication.
curious. Yeah, I'm curious about that because what we're talking about is faith, and we're going to talk about dedication here in just a second. But
Hmm.
it seems like, in fact, I think this is a great segue to my next question because a lot of times, or there have been times, I should say, when even just scrolling through Facebook, for example, where I
Hmm.
see photographers who have a faith that are kind of putting it all out. They're setting aside any real responsibility for the work that you're talking about, right? This is a fascinating conversation to me, just to begin with, just simply because this notion of work ethic and faith obviously coexists for you. But part
Yep.
of the reason I wanted to get in this conversation today is I've seen people who kind of throw the personal responsibility out the door, and they just say, "I'm going to pray about it." And I get the significance of prayer again from personal experience and from watching, listening to others, but it's kind of an all or nothing. It's not, I please pray for me as I go put the work in. It's, I'm going to pray about it, or y'all pray for me. This is what I need done. Not y'all pray for me and I'm going to go work for 12 hours to get this thing done. Does that make sense? That
Yeah.
coexistence doesn't seem to be the norm for everyone. I'm wondering if you can kind of comment on that idea a little bit as it relates to and where this faith, the line between faith and dedication is.
Yeah. Okay. Most definitely. So like, I think people kind of get that confused. Like, well, pray for me, and and just say, okay, I'm not gonna put the work in, but just pray for me. You gotta. The faith is continue to do the work. You still can pray for me, but I still have to do the work. The
Right.
faith is believing in that if I do the work, He will answer me. He will answer whatever my prayers are. It's not just pray and let it go and just okay, I'm not gonna do nothing. It's I'm gonna keep working hard, but I'm gonna pray and ask for the things that I want, but I have to show him that I'm working towards those. You know.
I think it's a kind of a difficult conversation probably for a lot of people to and understand in the same conversation this reliance on a supernatural concept, right? That
Yep.
the lack of tangibility in that. I'm putting faith in somebody that I can't see to take care of me. Put it very very simply. But then simultaneously, I'm supposed to do this very tangible thing or set of tangible things. And it seems like it may be easy for some to kind of, almost like they're mutually exclusive, the supernatural and the practical, and they don't always coexist.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think the most important part to that is being having understanding, and then you can see where the faith and then the prayer comes in and it works. So, example, I can remember a couple of times where you know I could have been like like on my last $100 and was like, I got a bill I gotta pay. And because I stayed faithful to God and stayed faithful to photography, the next day I see a check clear. And I was like, where'd it come from? And I forget it was from a client like 2 months ago.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, to me, that's him answering. It's like, if you keep doing what I asked you to do, you stay faithful to me, I will lead you. I will make sure that you're okay. I will protect you through this journey because I gave you, God ain't going to give you the talent and then walk away from it.
But what's interesting about that idea, though, is so he provided for you in the moment, especially as you were praying. I mean, you're very much in the moment. You've got this bill coming up. You need the money, and suddenly this check clears, and you weren't expecting it. So naturally, you're thanking God. But then the reality at the same time is that you put the work in. So there's still this practical element to it as well, right?
Yep.
That's interesting.
I mean, it's I think faith is one of those things, man. It's hard to explain.
Sure.
It's hard to pinpoint because it's not something that it's not tangible.
Right.
It's not something you can grab onto or feel. I mean, you can feel it, but it's not something that you can see. And most of the time we relate to things that we see.
Right.
Like if I can see you, I can relate. Okay, cool. There's things that we can talk and see within each other that we can relate to.
We both have beards. You've got a better beard than I do, but
that's my point. Faith is something that you can't touch it, you can't see it.
Sure.
It's just something that you gotta. It's just something that you have. Like that. Faith is just. It's hard. If we could explain it, it wouldn't even be faith. That's the crazy part. If you can explain it, it wouldn't really be faith. We have it'd be something else that we can pinpoint. Oh, there go faith right there, but you can't do that with faith.
Right.
It's just something that that some of us have and understand, and some of us don't. Honestly, man, like I don't know how to even explain it.
Yeah. Well, again, I have, and there's so many different directions we can go in this conversation, but I have so much respect for the level of certainly dedication that you have to your faith, and then the level of dedication that you have to the need for practicality, and that you have to still do. I mean, it seems kind of cliche, but that Nike saying, just do it. At the end of the day, we just have to do it. And there's really no choice other than that. And I think it's so important for everyone to be reminded of that. So to that end, you commented a little bit about your background and your faith and learning from your parents and your dad in particular, of course, the work ethic as well. But I'm wondering if you can share with our listeners just briefly here as we're finishing up, what are a few habits? You mentioned to me before we started recording that there are 3 habits in particular that you exhibit consistently. You're putting faith into practice, but you're also dedicated to your craft. And I know that you talked about putting time in. What are 3 habits in particular that you implement in your business regularly that you feel like have made a big difference in moving your business forward?
So it's kind of like personal and business at the same time.
Okay, sure.
I pray every morning. I just thank God for opportunity, His blessings, His ability to give me the talent. I just thank Him for opportunities that He has, the doors He have opened up for me. Yeah. I show my grace to Him because I'm grateful for the things that He have done for me. I think one thing that I do all the time, it sounds crazy. I'm not afraid to reach out to anybody, nobody. If I like your product, I email you or I DM you like, hey, I like your product. I would like to shoot that. And it may sound crazy because people are like, you just talking to people like that. I'm like, yeah, I just reach out to people.
You just do it.
I just do it, man. Yeah. Like I just reach out to people and, I have got a big response. Like a lot of my clients come from LinkedIn. Like like the DMs in LinkedIn, like I reach out to a business like, hey, I like the products. I would love to shoot it. Yep. And it gets the conversation going. Or I go add somebody. I go do my own research on companies and find creative directors and art directors and reach out to them. Like, hey, my name is Demetrius Neal, I'm a product photographer. Please check out my work. Like I'm never afraid to reach out to people to push my business because I love doing what I'm doing. And in my heart, I can make your product 10 times better. When I get done shooting your product, people are going to love it. And it's going to generate more money for you. So I'm never afraid to express that.
Yep.
to people.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you about that? And I'm taking notes. You may have seen me look down. I'm
Are you
taking notes
fine?
here as you're talking. But the significance of taking initiative, and you mentioned LinkedIn specifically in the DMs in LinkedIn. I've been getting more DMs in LinkedIn actually as of late that were either relevant or not even relevant to me. And to that point, it seems like a lot of times people can just kind of copy and paste a template message. And I would venture, at least based on my personal experience, that would be super off-putting to other companies if they get these DMs by somebody who they don't know with a message that obviously was a copy and paste job, some template job, very impersonal. How do you personalize that communication? If you're taking that initiative, which again I have so much respect for, you're taking that initiative and you're reaching out and just taking that chance. How do you make that communication personal enough and ultimately convincing enough on that platform?
One, I don't send copy and paste messages. Everyone is personal.
Okay.
Every message I send is personal. It's not a copy and paste. It's very personal, and I'm being myself in those messages as well. So when you talk to me, you know exactly who you're talking to and what you're getting. I think that's the key. I think it's being personal all the time. It's making people feel like, they're not just another person in the factory getting pushed through the line.
Yeah.
Is that this guy took out his time to write this letter and dedicate it specifically to us because he likes what he likes what we are doing at this company. He would love to be a part of it. So, I take my time in writing these letters out and these introductions and, introducing myself to companies, people, because, we all know that this world is built on relationships.
Yeah.
It's all about who you know sometimes, honestly, I know people who probably never picked up a camera a day in their life and probably shot photography because they knew somebody.
Yep.
It happens.
Absolutely.
It happens all the time, man. It's all about these relationships that you build. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I make sure everything is personal. I never just copy text, paste paper, and just send it out to everybody.
Yeah.
Nah, it's not personal, man. It's not.
Fair enough.
And it's not me. I'm a very personal person, so it's not. It don't even fit to my character to do some stuff.
I totally get that. Yeah, and I love that you're consistent in that too. I can very much believe it. So we talked about kind of three primary habits that have made a big difference in moving your personal life forward. So prayer was one. Taking initiative, particularly in communication, was the second one. What's the third one?
My third one was to always be honest with myself. Be honest. I would say be honest.
Okay.
Even when it hurts, be honest.
What does that mean? What does that look like practically?
Man, just, be honest with your clients. Because sometimes clients can ask you for some crazy stuff. Like, look, can you make the building do 6 somersaults in one court? I'm like, it's a building. So no, I can't do that. But what I can do is this, though. It's just being honest. I think people appreciate honesty. Because with honesty, you can get truth. And with truth, you can do a lot of things. So, if they ask for this, well, I can't do that, but I can do this. Then they can say, okay, cool. Well, if you could do this, then we could plan to do this. Okay. Boom. Solution is found.
I like that for a number of reasons. One, because I think part of the reason honesty carries so much significance, particularly these days, is that so many people are being dishonest, or they're telling a lot of white lies, doing the surface level kind of BS stuff, and not just being straight up. So it stands out. It's unique in that way. And then the other thing that you just pointed out that I really like is when you tell somebody that you can't do something, it's not just simply no, or no, I can't do it. It's I can't do that, but I can do this. So it ends on a positive note still. I like that.
Always. So, honesty is everything, If, you be honest, and you will find yourself getting a lot further along in life and even in business when you're honest. Because again, honesty leads to truth, and with truth, you can do a lot of things with truth. You can move some things around, and okay, we can't do this because it can't work. Or example, let's just say if a client comes to me and asks me to do something and I can't do it. Well, if I lie and take that money, and then they realize that I can't do it, well, that hurts my reputation.
Yep, comes back.
And that's the worst thing. That's the worst thing you can do in business, to have a bad reputation.
Sure.
Because people talk, oh yeah, I did some work with that product photographer, Demetrius Neal. He said he can do this, and we had to rebook another photographer because he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And now all these other companies that heard your name, they second guessing you now because in your email you sounded super confident. But now from personal experiences, they hear somebody saying that he's not the guy that he say he is. That's a problem. That's a problem in business. So yeah, being honest, man. Being honest is
I love
super
it.
important.
Man, I love, first of all, the simplicity of these principles that you're sharing. What we're talking about here, and this is, I'm 41 years old, and even at this age, I mean, in my head, I'm like 15 still, right? But I'm 41. So I've spent a little bit of time on this earth. And one of the things that I've realized, even more significantly, even in the last year or two, is that it's not about these like earth-shattering brand new concepts or principles that make the biggest difference in life. It's really the simple stuff. And it's so easy, especially in this day and age. We're so used to like big, bold, crazy ideas because of social media and so forth, that we I think lose sight of the most important ideas, which are, they've been around for hundreds, thousands of years, and we just need to actually put them to practice consistently. And so your prime example, these principles, these concepts you're sharing are a great example of that. But at the end of the day, I just have so much respect for your focus on those principles. We're not talking a ton about photography or photographic technique. You've put the work in, obviously. I mean, I'm looking at your work. It's just stunning. But at the end of the day, it's these principles that drive what you do. And Demetrius, I actually have on the back of my lock screen on my phone here, and I'm going to try to hold this up to the camera and see if it'll come through. It's kind of blurred out. But right there, what that was, the blurred picture, was a list of 9 values that are important to me. And on a regular basis, I mean, they're there on the lock screen on my phone. On a regular basis, I'm able to review them. These are the ideas. I'm not going to be, to your earlier point, I'm not going to be perfect living them out, each and every one just right every single day. But I want my life at a very base level to reflect these ideas and these values. You've been a wonderful example of that in conversation today. I just have a lot of respect for that. And I really appreciate you sharing with all of our listeners about all of these things.
It's no problem, man. I think, again, we all have talents, man. Everybody has a talent. It's all about finding their talent, but most important, like I always tell people, and I've been saying, it's all about that commitment, the dedication, and the sacrifice to really take that talent to the next level. And what are you willing to leave behind to get ahead? Literally, what are you willing to leave behind to get ahead? I left a lot behind to get ahead to where I'm at, and I'm happy that I did, because my life I got a pretty good life. I get to wake up and do what I love every day. Every day I get to wake up and do what I love with no regrets, with no hesitation, with no contract to my life. If I want to take a vacation, I go take a vacation right now if I want to, because I would sacrifice enough of my life to get to this point.
Sure.
To where I can do that.
Yep, that makes sense.
One thing somebody always told me, live like no one now so you can live like no one later. It stuck to me so hard, because we all, everybody's living for the now. Now. Gotta have it now. Instant gratification.
Sure.
And I'm kind of more of like a slow turtle. I want to see my progression in this. I want to be able to look back 5 years ago, like, this is where I started. This is where I'm at. And then make that a point and say, this is where I'm about to be. So it's just one of those things. I don't know, man.
Well, this has been super. I really appreciate your time and the inspiration, the information, the wisdom, and the advice. Remind our listeners one more time where they can find and follow you online, keep up with what you're doing, maybe send you a DM or two.
Yeah, man. So on Instagram, you can find me at DEEL Neal, DL Neal. And then on my website, it's www.dlneal.com. You got any questions, shoot me a DM. I answer all my DMs. I ignore nobody.
Awesome. Man, so much respect. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks everybody for listening in, for joining us, hanging out.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate having me on here.
Absolutely. Everybody have a great day.